Yo, what's checking, everybody? Welcome to another edition of the Orange Bloods Texas Football Channel. Excuse me, Anwar, for having like a little bit of extra juice in the voice today, but we're discussing breaking news on a Friday. I mean, didn't think we'd be recording at this time of day. I was in the middle of watching a movie and stuff like that, but Casey Thompson has entered the portal. It requires an immediate instant analysis video here on the channel. Hey, look, we went over 10,000 subscribers yesterday. Thank you, man. We appreciate all of you contributing. The thing about YouTube is it feels like once you get to a certain level, the rapidness for which you can grow from that point on is significant. So we've always looked at 10 as the easiest way for us to get to 20 and 30. You have to get to 10 first, and then you can really accelerate. So we do appreciate all of you who've been riding shotgun with us really since the spring. But, you know, we've stepped our game up during the summer. Anwar and I doing daily videos, the entire Orange Blood staff contributing, all of the stuff that we did on signing day. You know what I'm going to ask? Like the video, subscribe to the channel, ring the bell, get notifications, and by all means, leave comments on the comments section. Do that.
By the way, Ketch, and don't forget the people behind the scenes.
Michael Rockman.
Yeah.
Ari Temkin.
Yeah.
Blake Skaggs. Like it is a full team. Serenity. I mean, my goodness, she's out in front doing videos, but she's also very good at contributing behind the scenes and helping out whenever we need help. So yeah, we got a rock and a roll. And this time last year, we had 5 people working at orangebloods.com. Now we have 10. And I hope you guys can tell by the way in which we do our jobs that it's a lot of people, all hands on deck, trying to do entertaining videos and content on the website, and good content that you guys will like. Anwar, Casey Thompson. It's not quite a Friday news dump, but it kind of is. I mean, it's 4 o'clock in the afternoon, basically. He goes into the portal. It's not a huge shock, but it's a big deal. I mean, he is the most proven and successful quarterback on this roster. Losing such a thing, I think, as Texas fans learned a year ago with Sam Ehlinger, Sam's not perfect. Sam never was perfect, but he was a bit of a guarantee on the box. You could go into the Oklahoma game next year with Casey Thompson and know that you're okay, that guy can have success in that game. You're kind of out of guarantees on the box now with what you have left in the quarterback room.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, Ketch, the one thing that you and I have consistently said through 2021 has been either Casey Thompson or Hudson Card is going to lead. We have said that consistently for months. Yeah. This is not the first time this has happened. We have said it consistently. One of these guys, maybe 2, are going to leave. We felt that. We've said that. We've been emphatic. We've said it on the YouTube channel. We've said it on orangebloods.com. So when you say it's not a surprise, the only surprise was who's going to do it first. Right? It was going to be, is Hudson going to go in the portal first, or is Casey going to go in the portal first? It's a little bit of a surprise for me, Ketch, because Casey ended up being the guy who started in more games last year. So if when you started thinking about, okay, well, who's going to be the guy that jumps first? Logic's probably said it would be Hudson because he started in less games, especially with the addition of Quinn Ewers. But what it seems like from what we've gathered, our reporting, Casey is kind of like, all right, look, I put in the work. I've got the stats. I threw the most touchdown passes here in the Big 12. I've got options, and I can go probably to a lot of different places, a lot of Power 5 schools. We'll have a report on Orange Bloods. So if you're not on Orange Bloods, you need to get on Orange Bloods, because Ketch will have a detailed report of a lot of things as it relates to this quarterback position in the quarterback, what's happening at this moment. Casey Thompson is the guy that says, you know what? I'm good. I'm out. I don't necessarily need to go where I'm tolerated. I'm going to go where I'm appreciated. And he's going to be the first one that's going to leave. We expected some sort of attrition in the room. And Casey Thompson ends up being the first guy. That's the only surprise was who is the first guy, and now we know it's Casey.
If we go back to the Monday overreaction show that we did, maybe the week after Iowa State or Kansas, I can't remember which that week that was, when Sarkisian, I think you asked the question, like, hey, you've got a quarterback who's playing hurt, but he leads the conference in touchdown passes. From a vote of confidence standpoint, like, who is Casey Thompson and how do you view your quarterback situation? There were a lot of ways that he could answer that question. And quite frankly, when you asked the question, I thought we might see him beat the drum of the success that Casey has had this season. I mean, we could tell a story. There's a version of the Casey Thompson story this year where you say he led the Big 12 in touchdown passes. He had the greatest performance of any quarterback in the history of the Oklahoma game. Before his thumb injury, he was one of the highest rated quarterbacks in the country from a passing efficiency standpoint. Stop. Injury happens. You never get the same guy again. But like, that is who he is and who he was before the injury. It's not the way the narrative unfolded, though. I mean, he played those last 6-7 games of the season injured, but played. And as the season numbers came down, and suddenly it was like, oh, he's not the Big 12's leading quarterback anymore, or number 2, or, oh man, the day Sark refused to give him the vote of confidence was the day that I did the video.
You said it. You called it out that day.
And you cringed when I said it, because my Monday overreaction was Casey Thompson is out of here.
Yes. And I was like, oh, come on, Catch. You're being ridiculous.
And I was like, and the next day after I made that comment is when Casey met with the media and kind of defended himself and said, hey, look, I do have a jacked up thumb. And you know what? I've done some good things this season. Like, don't be comparing. Don't say I am like a representative of why this team wasn't going to a bowl game, because, and the one thing you and I definitely agreed on, if everybody had been playing as well as Casey Thompson had, they wouldn't be missing a bowl game this year, because Casey Thompson over the course of the season was one of the better quarterbacks in the Big 12. Texas didn't have enough players on its team that were among the best at their position in the conference. That was the problem. But Casey Thompson wasn't one of those guys. Again, first half of that Oklahoma game is as good as it. That was Vince Young level of quarterbacking. Just touchdown, record-breaking numbers. Like, it was as good as anything that Texas has ever seen in that game. It's my opinion. I don't know, but I'm guessing Casey Thompson ends the season. And I got to feel like he had to feel like some ownership of this team was his. And part of not going to a bowl game was on him. And I'm sure that dug at him a little bit. And I'm sure he convinced himself, I'm the dude with the experience. I have played against Oklahoma. I did play with the thumb injury. And like, I know the offense. I know new guy shows up, has to learn it. I know it like the back of my hand. I can win that job. But then Xavier Worthy is like putting the other quarterback's face up on Twitter as his avatar. And Bijan Robinson and a legion of teammates are showing up and helping recruit this transfer quarterback who's making millions in NIL. And I have to believe that, who knows when it started, when Quinn Mania started to set in a little bit on campus. But I have to believe like his faith in what am I walking into and how fair is it? At the end of the day, he must think that there's a better situation out there for him than to come back in Texas and take the chance that you can win the job over somebody that everybody nationally is presuming will win the job. That he's leaving before spring football is the ultimate red flag of he had to get out of here. And the Quinn Ewers move clearly makes that so. And like, there's no judgment in my voice in any of this. I mean, he's got to look out for himself. I understand why Steve Sarkisian has brought in Quinn Ewers. I mean, there's nobody, you know, it'd be like if one of our, like somebody that we were dating was like, oh, I'm going out with Brad Pitt, or I'm leaving you for Brad Pitt or Denzel Washington. You know, like at some point you shrug the shoulder and you go, I can't even be mad about that because every woman would do that. And in this case, I feel like every coach would do what Steve Sarkisian has done. You always take the guy that's the number one quarterback prospect in the country, you know, consensus number one by everybody. I mean, look how it's already reframed the Steve Sarkisian experience going, like suddenly there's life in the program. That doesn't have anything to do with Casey. And I get if he would feel like, no, man, I need to get out now and quit pretending. And there'll be a lot of people that think that dude should have stayed and fought for the job. I could see that. But if Casey Thompson pulled me aside, Anwar, and said, hey, Ketch, 1 out of 100, how many times do you think I start this season? What are my chances? I don't know that I give him 1. I don't know. Like, there's just a part in my head that's like, I was watching little pieces of Avengers Endgame this week. It takes like a week to watch the movie. And, you know, it's a little bit like I am inevitable. There's a little bit of the Thanos thing here where Quinn Ewers being the starting quarterback of the University of Texas feels very inevitable. And
yes,
maybe you're naive if you don't see that.
I mean, here's the thing, Ketch. If you're Casey Thompson, okay, and you went through all of last year, so or really this year, I apologize, it's this year, and you were the number one guy in the winter conditioning program, number one guy in the spring, number one guy in the summer, and you're the number one guy starting off on training camp, okay, and then you get to the first scrimmage. And each guy is equal. You heard it, I heard it. We didn't hear that either quarterback distinguished themselves after that first scrimmage. And after that, Hudson Card becomes the number one guy. And really, it took Hudson Card having an unforeseeable bad performance against Arkansas in order for Casey Thompson to win back the job. So if you're Casey and you feel like I won back the job and I had good performances for how many games, right? Catch, we were talking about Casey Thompson on a historic level, Catch, for multitude of games. We were talking about how many times he scored and led Texas on a scoring drive, right? It was,
to be fair, though, that was Rice and Texas Tech, and I realize the games and the stats count.
Correct.
But he also had the Oklahoma game. So we can do the poo-pooing of the record-breaking numbers against the worst teams that remained on the Texas schedule.
Either way, some other quarterbacks have played bad teams and didn't do what he did. Right?
Well, Anwar, here's the two things I'd say real quick. Last year, Hudson Card was Thanos. He was inevitable. Who deserved what didn't matter. I mean, Hudson Card was going to be the starting quarterback of the University of Texas at some point this past season, just like Quinn Ewers was going to be. Now, the issue was, for me, could Casey hold him off for a week or two? You know what I mean? Like in the season, I wondered, God, is the Alabama game the absolute setup failure for, like, if Casey doesn't win that job, then you make the switch then? And it feels very much like, whoa, wait a minute, that's not real fair to Casey, but maybe, like, could he even hold him off until then?
Yeah.
If you flipped Hudson Card with Casey Thompson, Quinn Ewers isn't here right now. If it had been Hudson Card, let's just say Casey Thompson starts the Arkansas game and falls flat on his face, and Hudson Card's been waiting in the wings, and then Hudson takes over and starts off the way that Casey did, and then as a freshman does what Casey Thompson does in the Oklahoma game and then gets hurt, the entire narrative of, I think, what that would have looked like if that had been Hudson Card versus Casey Thompson looks very different. And I don't think if that had been Hudson Card, who led the Big 12 in touchdown passes and just had played with a bad thumb the second half of the season, I don't think Quinn Ewers is here right now. I can't completely explain the dynamics of why it would be different, but Casey wasn't set up to be the poster boy and the leader of this thing. Hudson had been built up by myself. Like, I'm part of that. I helped build this narrative that Hudson was the young superstar in waiting. And maybe because Casey was never quite hyped up like that when it happened for him, it didn't count the same as I think it might have counted for somebody else. There's an alternative universe out there where Hudson Card did what Casey Thompson did, and Casey Thompson did what Hudson Card did, and all of the dynamics for where we sit today look completely different. But in this universe, Casey Thompson's in the portal. I'm fascinated to see where he goes. Because if I was a school that had been very good last year but suddenly needs a quarterback, example, Pittsburgh, right? I have no idea if Casey Thompson would go to Pittsburgh. I don't know if Pittsburgh would want Casey Thompson, but the news comes out yesterday that their quarterback is going to miss next season because he's going to the NFL. And he's not playing in the bowl game. Well, that was a team that was really good this year. I have no idea what their quarterback situation looks like, but I could see where teams like that have that kind of profile would say, yeah, I'll take some of Casey Thompson right now. I'll take Big 12's leading touchdown thrower and sight unseen almost versus, redshirt freshman that hasn't played that I don't know if is ready to play. So I think Casey Thompson will have options. It really, from a Texas perspective, it's Quinn Ewers' show now.
Well, here's the thing. I mean, to a certain degree, it is, right. Like we clearly know it's trending that way, and I get. Look, one, we understand that Casey Thompson will have options. Okay. Like, this is not going to be Casey Thompson probably going to a non-Power 5 school. Casey Thompson has proved himself on a Power 5 level that when healthy, he could be one of the better quarterbacks in the country. Like that, we know that. And, the thing for me, Ketch, and I'm going to get to the Quinn Ewers thing in a second. So just give me a second to go there, which is, I knew there was trouble when one of the people who were associated with Casey Thompson put out the photo of Casey Thompson's thumb throughout the season. And when that person, and I forget the person's name, but I know you know exactly what I'm talking about. It was on Twitter. Yeah. And when that person started showing Casey Thompson's thumb through different stages of the year, where it was Oklahoma game, the Iowa State game, I knew at that point, oh, this is a problem. Because, and I think we did one of the programs, I'm like, oh, Casey's people are trying to let it be known that no matter what the narrative they feel like is coming out from Texas, they want everybody to know he's injured. And they feel like the UT is not getting his back. And to your point, Ketch, I talked to Casey on one of those Mondays. They all run together. There's so many of them. But I talked to him, and it seemed like he was like, I don't want to make an excuse for my thumb and being an injury. But he goes, but I haven't been able to grip a football. I haven't been able to do anything. So if the Casey Thompson is feeling like, hey, they're throwing me out here. They're wanting me to play. I can't grip a football, but yet I hearing criticism and feeling like and being told that, hey, I need to play better. I need to do better. And now he's thinking to himself, I'm injured. Like, what do you want me to do? Like, and there's a difference between injured and hurt or so on and so forth. But I can't do certain things. So I knew at that point, that's a problem. Okay. And so, yes, if you're Casey and you lost your job last year, feeling like you went through everything, then the question becomes, can I trust it in a second year? Yeah, I lost my job. I did everything I felt like I should do. And I lost my job at the end of the day to Hudson, and took a bad performance for me to even get back in there. And now, and you and I talked about this, Ketch. We talked about this multiple YouTube videos here, which is if you're one of these quarterbacks and Mullet Mania has hit Austin, and you know at some point it's inevitable. It's inevitable that he's going to be the starting quarterback. We understand that. We understand he's that talented, that he's going to be the. And Ketch, you and I also know that from the Quinn camp, one of the reasons that they decided to commit to Texas because they knew one of these quarterbacks were going to leave.
Yeah.
And look, that's the reason why they made the decision, because they understood when he comes, one of these guys is out. One of these guys are not going to play ball.
So I'll just to react to that. Hudson, Casey went in the portal before, and Cameron Rising went in with him. And then Casey came out of the portal because Cameron Rising actually left. I wonder if and what this means for Hudson Card, but I don't believe for a million years that kid or his family or decision makers helping them think their way through the next steps, they're not naive. Mm. They have eyeballs. Now, it behooves Texas to have Hudson Card stay, but for really selfish reasons. I mean, kind of like Texas needed Casey Thompson to stay a year ago. You don't want to be in a situation where your depth, the next guy is, you don't want Malik Murphy to be your backup quarterback. And not now, not right away, not before the calendar in 2021 even ends. And it's like, oh yeah, a freshman and essentially another freshman are the top two quarterbacks. Then you've got to go into the portal and potentially find a transfer with experience. They exist, but who you're able to pull when a transfer quarterback knows that they're probably there for depth purposes only becomes a bit tricky. I'm curious. I love Hudson Card. If it was me and Hudson Card was my son, we'd be out. We would be. Mm-hmm. I'd be like finding a situation that I think allows him to restart his career. If it takes a year to get under his belt, it takes a year under his belt. But Quinn Ewers looks like the guy that's going to start at Texas for the next 2 years. I don't know where Hudson Card could possibly see himself in that picture. And if Casey Thompson didn't want to fight the uphill battle of wanting the job from Quinn Ewers, when it feels like things are being stacked up for Quinn, no offense, I mean, it is what it is. I wonder how Hudson sees the exact same quarterback picture. This might not be the last quarterback we see enter the portal. And there may be a future conversation of, wow, Texas is super young at quarterback. Who could they possibly get in the portal that can help them bridge this concern area they will have? And
I don't think they should do that though, Ketch. This is I'm telling you, I'm going to go 10 toes down on this particular thing.
Okay.
I will go 10 toes down on Texas is in the rebuild. Screw it. Play your young guys. That's it for me. I'm
even if Quinn Ewers has a high ankle sprain and Malik Murphy's got to play 6 weeks.
It is what it is, man. Okay. I mean, because Ketch, do you think at this point, and we're recording this on, what is it, December 16th, 17th right now? What does my phone say? 17th. According to this, at December 17th, it's 4:16 p.m. At this moment, And nothing that, look, we know where we do YouTube videos. People will cut and paste this thing. They'll hold this. We know they're whatever. But I'm talking about as of this moment. Do you believe Texas is competing for a Big 12 title next year?
No.
So and I don't believe that either. So because I don't believe that Texas is competing for a Big 12 title next year, the thing I will write for Sunday, you really want to be my Sunday pulpit? I'll give you a preview. Play your young guys. This will be a growing / building year regardless, Catch, regardless. So know what?
This is your last. I mean, look.
This is an ultimate get out of jail free card, by the way.
I'm arguing against the wall right now because I don't disagree with you. But, man, tell that to Bijan Robinson. I mean, tell that to like the transfers that you're trying, like the story they want to sell is that they will compete for a Big 12 championship, whether or not it's realistic or not. I mean, I think you and I share the same feeling that 8-4 next year might be a good season.
They were 5-7.
That's what I'm saying.
What kind of jump are we expecting?
That's what I'm saying. But boy, remember when Charlie said we're not? We've talked about this before. This isn't a school that does well with hearing. Yeah, we ain't winning we ain't playing in the national championship game this season.
No, they're not. Nope. It ain't what they want to hear.
So they won't ever be. I don't know. If it really is, I guess I would say this. If it's about playing the young kids, playing for 2024, really, or 2023, like suddenly your load up season is Quinn's last year. So you got 1 year to like get all the dysfunction out. And then in 2023, that's got to be the year you're ramping up towards. Because Quinn Ewers doesn't even want to be here in 2024. So you've got a 2-year window. It feels like such a shame when your Bijan Robinson is your running back. And you got 1 year left with him. And you're going into this with a thought process of, we're just going to play our young kids at quarterback and let them grow up. Just feels like a little bit of a waste. But I'm not arguing with you because it may very well be the best plan. But it will be, I mean, look, people get mad at me for saying this, but when has that ever stopped me from saying something? If I was Bijan Robinson and I got the vibe that I was just going to waste my time next year for a team that's going to try to win 8 games and be good the following year. If it were me, I wouldn't be putting all my blood, sweat, and tears into that. I'd be like, that's not for me. And I guess there's just a part of me that's like, they got 1 year of a historically good running back left, who's their best player, who's going to probably be the captain of their, assuming they do captains next year. Shouldn't make assumptions, but if they decide to do captains this year, you'd think that Bijan Robinson would be in that discussion for a guy leading this program. It's hard for me to give up, I guess, but Anwar, you might be right. It's just a hell of a thing to say the December before the spring, before we're there. But
Catch, I mean, it just, to me, it just makes too much sense. I mean, to me, it make Bijan aside, like Bijan's Bijan. But Bijan, at the end of the day, Bijan is still going to put up numbers. He's still going to be in a Heisman conversation, and he's still going to be, if not a day 1 pick, probably a day 2 pick, right? I mean,
he's just on a different journey than everybody else in this program. It's he's
the only guy that's on that. The 2022 journey, or 2022 draft, so 2023 draft, he's the only guy that we look at in this program.
You're right.
And you say to yourself, he's a potential, and I mean after next season. Xavier Worthy will be a high draft pick, but Xavier Worthy is a freshman. Bijan only has 1 more year. He's the only guy that's in that conversation. So you get the most you can out of him. You appreciate it. But outside of that, if you're Sarkisian, you feel like, okay, I've got to build this roster in a different way. I got to go in a totally different direction. I've got to bring in 33 new players, right? Which, by the way, how many is the scholarship count right now? 27, 28, Catch?
I've lost count. Yeah. It
really
comes down to whether or not we're still including Ronald Lewis, who is technically a commitment, but so was Anthony Jones before Anthony Jones was told, hey, how about you don't sign tomorrow? And that kid did sign. He just did it with Oregon. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So it kind of depends. Are we including Quinn? Are we including Ryan Watt? You know what I mean? It's a fluid floating number,
but if we say just new players, right? If you don't go incoming freshmen, we just say new players, it's going to be in the 30s, at this point. And so everything about that screams rebuild. That's what it is. And so, yes, in an ideal world, and look, Texas, everyone will talk themselves into believing like, all right, Texas will have a chance to compete against, whoever, OU, Baylor, Oklahoma State for the Big 12 championship. We understand that's what it's going to be. But if you're going in that direction, I will say this, and here's my question to you. Catch, does 8-4 look different under Quinn Ewers than it does under Casey Thompson?
Oh, yeah.
It's totally different, right? Yeah. Same record, two different quarterbacks. So if you pull out 8-4 with Quinn Ewers, and 8-4 would be, somewhat disappointing, but still, if you're 8-4 with a freshman quarterback, I'm okay. I get it. To me, at this point, Casey, go where you want to go. Be happy. Quinn is the future. He's the now. And if he's the now, he's the future, or whatever. I don't think Hudson Card beats him out, quite honest with you. If you're Hudson Card, I think you too need to start thinking about what does your future look like. And then at the end of the day, if Hudson leaves, if you're Steve Sarkisian, you go, okay, I've got Malik. I've got myself, Quinn. I'll find somebody that wants to be at Texas as a backup. I roll with Quinn as my dude. And then I just hope he ends up being that 5-star that you, by the way, Catch, say, give me your 5 stars. How many of those guys end up being NFL, draft picks? That's the Ketchum thing, right? So at the end of the day, I don't think it's the tragedy that people will say, and people are like, "Oh my God, Anwar, you're the Casey Thompson fanboy."
But you know what's interesting? Sark potentially runs the risk of going so young, because it ain't like he's trying to bring 10 transfers in and have a leadership council full of guys from program. You know what I mean? He's telling us, I'll take all your high school kids I can get. And they've missed out on some, and that's the only reason why that number is not 30 right now.
Mm-hmm.
It's possible they could be, because they're going to play a lot of freshmen next year.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, 2-3 on the offensive line. I think if I set the number at 2.5 and said by the end of next season, not the first game, but the 12th game, how many of these freshmen do we think are possibly starting on the offensive line? I think if I set it at 2.5, I'm curious. I might do that. I might put that on Orange Bloods as a poll later, because I think some people might go 3. I think they may say 2 at the beginning, 12 games in, 3. Mm-hmm. And, they're going to be young in the secondary. They're going to be young everywhere.
Catch.
They have a chance that they're going to be so young. They might miss Quinn Ewers' lightning in a bottle, because there's no guarantee that kids who are freshmen in 2022 are going to be ready to be great by sophomores in 2023. That's not how college football typically works. When you go back and you look at like those great Clemson teams that won championships, Georgia this year, obviously Alabama, they're always hunkered down. They might have freshman or sophomore stars, but there's a veteran thing there that Texas isn't going to have for a few years. Look, it's another video. We got so many videos in the making, but like one of the things that might be interesting, I wonder what if you and I did a projected 2023 starting lineup.
Oh,
What it might, the reason why I bring that up is I wonder just how young it looks. And I wonder if because I'm thinking of
not
2022, not 2022. I'm talking about the year where you've got Quinn Ewers where you better make the use of it. Because that dude wants to be gone 2 years from now, right? You don't disagree with me on that.
No, that's true. That's
so
true.
Like the video for another day. I'm just saying out loud in real time, this thing as I'm thinking it. I wonder what we all think the starting lineup based on what we know right now. And look, full disclosure, it would behoove us to wait to see, does Devin Campbell come in as a 5-star offensive lineman? And, you know, who do they have coming in? Let's make sure that Ryan Watts transfers in from Ohio State. And, you know, some of the answers to these questions are TBA. But at the end of this signing day, I think projecting ahead to what a 2023 team looks like probably tells us a huge story of what 2022 is going to look like. Because if a dude's not going to be helping you out in 2023 and he's not great, like Bijan Robinson excluded, but if you got a junior offensive lineman or a senior offensive lineman that's like, and you got a young kid that the following year will be better off because they went through the fire this year, because you got to take advantage of Quinn Ewers in year 2, it leads to doing the thing that you're saying that Steve Sarkisian should do this year. That was a long way for me to get there, but using a little bit more critical thinking, I think, for like, what's the play? You're probably right. You're probably right.
Yeah, I mean, I just, you know, last thing I'll say on the catch is I'm okay. You know, look, Sarkisian, in order to be successful, you know, you got to build up a program the way you feel like it should be built. And just because your predecessor built it a certain way doesn't mean you have to follow the lead. When I got to Orange Bloods, my predecessor did certain things a certain way, and I do things totally differently because that's the way I want to do it, right? My column is different. My column is different and in shape different than anyone else's column. But, you know, week in and week out, you know, you and I have usually the top columns on Orange Bloods is because I do the things that way I want to do it. Steve Sarkisian needs to do the things that he needs, the way he wants to do it. Apologize for that. So if he feels like I need to bring in this kind of player in order for Texas to have long-term sustainable success, and I'm not going to put a Band-Aid on it, and he feels like, hey, I tried to put a Band-Aid on it last year. I tried to work with the guys that I was handed with last year. I brought in a couple of transfer portal guys at linebacker, but I tried to work with all the other positions and it just didn't work. Then yes, tear it down, build it back up the way you feel like it should be built. So it ultimately, because if you feel like that's going to be successful, then that's the only way to judge him as a head coach is if he gets the chance to build the program that he wants to build. So if Casey Thompson leaves, which he's leaving or has left, and we all understood that Casey Thompson graduated in 3 years with the thought process that he would have these kind of opportunities. He has the COVID year that gives him a couple, 2 more years. Then yeah, Casey, go leave. I'm sure he'll be successful wherever he wants to be. And then Steve Sarkisian, you've got Quinn Ewers. He's the dude. He's that guy. We got mullet mania that's going on. He's inevitably going to be the starter. You know what I've always said, Ketch? I've always go back to the old Florida athletic director, quote that says, whatever needs to be done inevitably should be done immediately. So inevitably, Quinn Ewers is going to be the starting quarterback. So that should be done immediately. And so let that guy be the guy. Take your growing pains. Let them be their lumps. And listen, you say all the right things as you start Sarkisian in 2022. You talk about competing for a Big 12 title. You talk about how you guys are trying to get back to the game. Like, you talk about all that stuff. And then you and I can understand that, yeah, dog, if you start that many young people, it's going to be some growing pains. It's going to take a minute to get there. But if 2022 ends up being guys taking lumps in order to have long-term success, so be it. So we'll see what the quarterback room looks like, Ketch. We'll see what Hudson Card does. He's the next guy that's kind of on deck to see, like, what's your decision-making process. If you're Hudson, you say, okay, I only got one more guy to compete against, and you like your odds. Or you say, you know what? I don't know if I like my odds. And look, as much as we talked about a Casey perspective, there's a Hudson perspective that can say, you know what? When I made a couple of mistakes and had a bad game, I got yanked. So you know what? I need to go somewhere where I feel like, everyone's going to give me that opportunity to learn and grow. And then it ends up being Quinn's job. Maybe that's the reason why Vegas put 25-1 odds on Quinn winning the Heisman as opposed to anyone else. Like, maybe there's a little bit something to that. So we'll see what happens. But man, hell of a Friday, Ketch. What a hell of a week we've had, baby.
Leave your comments in the comments section. I cannot wait.
Goodness.
If there's ever been
ever going to get some sleep, I feel like we're doing a PBS telethon here.
If there's ever a video where I kind of just want to dive into what the comments are, it'll be the comment from all of this, mainly because I think there's a conversation that you and I have had in the middle of this video that started with Casey Thompson, that ended with the real future of the University of Texas football program. And I don't know that the real honest, let's talk about what the next 2 years might look like. I don't know that people are really having that conversation yet. They're just so excited that Quinn Ewers is here and that all these freshmen are going to be here. But boy, there's a really interesting thing to talk about with a lot of layers to it. That's what they do Monday and Tuesday and Wednesday videos for. Anwar and I are going to go jump into the weekend. Barring Hudson Card putting himself into the portal in the next 48 hours. Right? We do a Hudson React video, right?
I will listen. Listen, here's the deal. I'm going out to see it's Friday night, National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation. As a thing. I know it's people are like, why can't you watch it at home? I'm going out to watch it. If Hudson goes in the portal on Friday night,
no video.
I'm going to do it. I will fire it up, and I will I'll do it from outside the theater.
I'll do it with you. I'll be here.
Yeah,
but I'll commit to that.
Okay,
but let's hope that you can just go watch Uncle Eddie.
Yes,
Sitter's Full, Christmas Tree Cat, all that stuff. Let's hope that you do that uninterrupted. For myself and Anwar Richardson, happy holidays. Merry Christmas. Subscribe to the channel. Click those likes. We still want that too. You guys have a good rest of the Friday and a great weekend. We'll talk to you soon. Later.